Love and light, friends. Tao Te Ching, 15th verse. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There is no way to describe it. One can only describe them vaguely by their appearance. Watchful, like men crossing a winter stream. Alert, like men aware of danger. Simple as uncarved wood. Hollow like caves. Yielding like ice about to melt. Amorphous like muddy water. But the muddiest water clears as it is stilled, and out of that stillness life arises. He who keeps the Tao does not want to be full, but precisely because he is never full, he can remain like a hidden sprout and does not rush to early ripening. 16th verse. Become totally empty. Let your heart be at peace. Amidst the rush of worldly comings and goings, observe how endings become beginnings. Things flourish each by each, only to return to the source, to what is and what is to be. To return to the root is to find peace. To find peace is to fulfill one's destiny. To fulfill one's destiny is to be constant. To know the constant is called insight. Not knowing this cycle leads to eternal disaster. Knowing the constant gives perspective. This perspective is impartial. Impartiality is the highest nobility. The highest nobility is divine. Being divine, you will be at one with the Tao. Being at one with the Tao is eternal. This way is everlasting, not endangered by physical death. 17th verse. With the greatest leader above them, people barely know one exists. Next comes one whom they love and praise. Next comes one whom they fear. Next comes one whom they despise and defy. When a leader trusts no one trusts him. The great leader speaks little. He never speaks carelessly. His words without self-interest and leaves no trace. He works without self-interest and leaves no trace. When all is finished, the people say, "We did it ourselves." Verse 29. Do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I do not believe it can be done. Everything under heaven is a sacred vessel and cannot be controlled. Trying to control leads to ruin. Trying to grasp, we lose. Allow your life to unfold naturally. Know that it too is a vessel of perfection, just as you breathe in and breathe out. There is a time for being ahead and a time for being behind, a time for being in motion and a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous and a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe and a time for being in danger. To the sage, all of life is a movement toward perfection. So what need has he for the excessive, the extravagant, or the extreme? Verse 30. One who would guide a leader of men in the uses of life will warn him against the use of arms for conquest. Weapons often turn upon the wielder. Where armies settle, nature offers nothing but briars and thorns. After a great battle has been fought, the land is cursed and crops fail. The earth lies stripped of its motherhood. After you have attained your purpose, you must not parade your success. You must not boast of your ability. You must not feel proud. You must rather regret that you had not been able to prevent the war. You must never think of conquering others by force. Whatever strains with force will soon decay. It is not attuned to the way. Not being attuned to the way, its end comes all too soon. 42nd verse. The Tao gave birth to one. One gave birth to two. Two gave birth to three. And three beget the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things carry yin and embrace yang. They achieve harmony by combining these forces. People suffer at the thought of being without parents, without food, or without worth. Yet this is the very way that kings and lords once described themselves. For one gains by losing, and loses by gaining. What others taught, I teach. The violent do not die a natural death. That is my fundamental teaching. 43. The softest of all things overrides the hardest of all things. That without substance enters where there is no escape, no space. Hence, I know the value of non-action, teaching without words, performing without actions. Few in the world can grasp it. That is the Master's way. Rare indeed are those who obtain the bounty of this world. 44. Which means more to you, you or your renown? Which brings more to you, you or what you own. I say what you gain is more trouble than what you lose. Love is the fruit of sacrifice. Wealth is the fruit of generosity. A contented man is never disappointed. A contented man is never disappointed. He who knows when to stop is preserved from peril. Only thus can you endure long. "45. The greatest perfection seems imperfect, and yet its use is inexhaustible. The greatest fullness seems empty, and yet its use is endless. Great straightness seems twisted. Great intelligence seems stupid. Great eloquence seems awkward. Great truth seems false. Great discussion seems silent. Activity conquers cold. Inactivity conquers heat. Stillness and tranquility set things in order in the universe." Verse 46. When the world has the way, running horses are retired to till the fields. When the world lacks the way, war horses are bred in the countryside. There is no greater loss than losing the Tao, no greater curse than covetousness, no greater tragedy than discontentment. The worst of faults is wanting more, always. Contentment alone is enough. Indeed, the bliss of eternity can be found in your contentment. Contentment alone is enough. Indeed, the bliss of eternity can be found in your contentment. Contentment alone is enough. Indeed, the bliss of eternity can be found in your contentment. Contentment alone is enough. Indeed, the bliss of eternity can be found in your contentment. Contentment alone is enough. Indeed, the bliss of eternity can be found in your contentment. Contentment alone is enough.